Hi everyone, this is Hayden. We're having an unexpected break for the next couple of weeks. Sorry about that, but just to fill you in the interim, here's a recording from our big debate conversation about James Bond from episode 1. Hope you enjoy it, and see you soon. Bye.
You are about to witness history in the making.
Okay, so we're now on our big debate, and in this section what we're going to do is take some part of gaming and pop culture and we're going to do a little bit of a focus on it. So to kick us off, what we thought was we'll pick a subject that we both love, that's not Star Trek, funnily enough, or Star Wars, and we're going for Bond. So we've both got very different views on Bond. Do you want to kick off things, Steve?
Alright, shall we? I think what we do is we leave our favourite Bonds and all that we've sort of done them in an order, haven't we? So
we have.
We can leave that till last.
Yeah.
So if I put my bit forward for Sean Connery, then.
Okay.
So say to me, he's the first and the best. Always the first is the best. You know what I mean? In many TV shows.
Yeah.
And what works well with Connery and his sort of how should I put it? His roughness that he does have compared to say Roger Moore, for example. That he goes out and does it where Roger Moore hangs back a bit with that. He doesn't like to be too violent.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
And it works well. And I think also what helps the Connery movies is the soundtracks. I think they're far more superior with John Barry doing the music.
Yeah.
Over those years.
Apart from Dr. No, that one wasn't.
Well, no, the James Bond theme was by Monty Norman anyway.
Yeah.
But as in the soundtracks as they go, because that soundtrack was slightly different. But yeah, John Barry did all the music, and he's class what he did. Yeah, and but you've got a different view on that, haven't you?
What, on who's the best Bond, you mean? Yeah, I have.
But he's a joking Bond, though, isn't he? Come on.
Well, yeah, but I mean, my favourite Bond is Pierce Brosnan. And the reason why I've always chose him as my favourite Bond is because he has the suaveness that both Roger Moore and Connery had. He could deliver the humour that Moore could, but he also had that rough edge that Connery did. You know, that look of, this guy could actually kill you, because I've seen Pierce Brosnan in that movie and other movies go from this very, amicable, good-looking guy to, shit, this guy was going to shoot you. I can just see that in him, as a character, and that to me is what Bond should be like. So to me, he really encompasses what I would imagine James Bond to be. But that's my opinion. In terms of his movies, I think he had some of the worst movies. But that I'm differentiating the Bond from the film. The actor who plays him.
It's like me saying, do you know what? If you could put Connery, as he was then, in some of the later films with the way technology went for how the movies come across, because they were 60s movies.
Yeah.
That's why they might turn people a bit from his side of view. But if you think of his performance and how he portrayed the character, I think he was spot on more for I think Ian Fleming got it right with Connery.
I mean, he set the standard, absolutely. But I think the thing with Bond, and I know that they do this consciously with Bond as well, is they find an actor that is representative of that era. So Connery really was, the perfect guy to pick as Bond at the time when he came in. And when you actually, when Bond, started on the airwaves, he really epitomised the kind of look and everything that I think gave that fundamental image. But times moved on in the 70s, and that's where you go more to the Moore kind of thing. And to be honest, Moore never really played Bond. He just played a variation of the Saint.
Possibly, yeah.
But I loved my favourite Bond movies. My two favourite Bond movies are both Roger Moore films.
I know,
but he's not my favourite Bond.
Yeah, but how could that don't make sense? You can't do that, surely.
Yeah, you can, because it's. I just. To me, I'm looking at the stories differently than I am actually the character, of Bond and how Bond was.
I mean, to be honest, I think they all played very well.
Yeah.
Dalton probably tail end of the list there.
I think Dalton beats Lazenby easily.
Why?
Because
the only guy who only got one crack at the whip.
Yeah.
And due to, I can't remember whether it was contracts or whatever, that it didn't work out. Now, even though he was Australian, believe it or not,
yeah,
the accent he came over in that came over as very British. So he could come across as that sort of debonair type. I think he did all right. I mean, it's only one movie. I quite like On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
I like Her Majesty's Secret Service as well, but I didn't like him as Bond. I don't know. It was just the way that he played Bond. I just didn't warm to. And if you actually look, I've watched the special features on all of the Blu-rays for Bond as well, and he was pretty much universally not liked by every other member of the cast.
I know. I don't know why. That's a shame, because it puts him on the back foot, and it makes him a bit alienated to everyone else. I don't think they've ever got everyone together before.
No.
There has been the issue that some of them don't like each other. I know.
Well, let's face it, and now we're not going to get them all together because, of course, of the poorly departed Roger Moore.
Exactly. Yeah, real shame.
It is. But I don't know. It was just something about Lazenby. But On Her Majesty's Secret Service was an okay movie.
Oh, it was. It was quite a good film, and it had because. All right. Well, as you can see what I'm reading, what I'm talking about, and you're looking at the notes we got. And I cast Daniel Craig in Another Planet at the minute. I'll talk about it in a minute. But George Lazenby had to do that role. He had the worst part of that film for him to do as a Bond character was to mourn the loss of his wife when she got shot at the end of the film. Sorry for spoilers if you haven't seen it. It's old enough.
Yeah, I think that any film that was made in the early 70s, we can call, I'm sorry, we're not spoiling it on you. You've had plenty of time to watch it by now.
Yeah. And when he did that first take of when she was shot in the car after their wedding day, he actually did it with tears, and he told him, no, Bond doesn't cry, you can't do that. So they retook the shot without him crying. Because it did get to him, And then it wasn't till Roger Moore in when he actually visited the grave of his wife at one point in one of the movies, which I think that's the only other time it's been really talked about in the films, if I remember rightly.
It's not referenced. I mean, there is one on Live and Let Die where it says, "Oh yes, your wife has booked in."
Yeah, no,
that's my wife, and it's the black woman.
Yeah, that's it. But that's not. It's not really mentioned there. But it's the point. No. The point of the fact that what Roger Moore did was to go in one of his films. He actually went to her graveside, didn't he?
Yeah.
And so twice they've only had that part of the story in there. But
Yeah.
I think everybody likes all the Bonds, really. We have our favourites and maybe our slight dislikes. But we've watched every one of them regardless.
Yeah. I mean, one we very briefly touched on, but we didn't really talk much about, Timothy Dalton.
Yeah, the man in tights.
Prince Baron.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, to me, when I read the book, I picture Timothy Dalton, or a character that looks more like Timothy Dalton out of all of them, to be quite honest with you. And I think the problem with Dalton's Bond was not down to Dalton. I think it was absolutely down to the writing, because when you actually look at that Bond, it was, the 80s. You're talking about, HIV was everywhere. Everybody thought we were all going to die of HIV and, whatever.
Yeah.
They wanted to tame Bond as well. And it was interesting, actually, the viewpoint of some of the Bond women from that era, thinking particularly on The Living Daylights, with the woman with the cello. She was interviewed and she was saying, well, I was the first really liberated and powerful Bond woman. We'll forget about the Doctor from Moonraker. We'll forget about Barbara Bach's character as Agent Triple X. We'll forget about basically every other Bond, woman that has gone before. I don't know where she got the idea that she was the most liberated, because to me, she was the one who needed the most protection out of all of them. But it's interesting how as the actor playing that role, she didn't see it that way. But to me, she was the one who couldn't look after herself the most. But the other thing that they were saying in the documentaries about that era is that what they wanted to do was foster the view of not being promiscuous. And if you think about it, in those movies, Bond only had a couple of Bond girls in each movie, whereas go back before, you had 4 or 5 women throughout the episode or the movie.
Yeah.
And I think with all of the sort of things that they tried to do to make Bond politically correct, I just think it ruined it, because the point is Bond is not a politically correct character. But equally, he is, I think, nowadays more respectful of women, because when you look at the old image of Bond, the Connery era, because I sat and watched Goldfinger the other day.
I know, we were talking about this yesterday, weren't we?
Yeah, and I was watching it, and I was watching the scene with Pussy Galore in Goldfinger's stables.
Yeah.
And basically, what Bond did, if would have been classified as sexual assault.
But to be honest, didn't Brosnan? Because obviously there's so much here. Didn't Brosnan do the same thing? I'm trying to think which one it was in.
Yeah.
He forced himself on. HR would be straight on that, wouldn't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they did. So yeah, and I think that there is that sometimes they go with that, but it was quite. It's quite ironic, really, looking at something which, when I grew up watching Bond, that was a romanticised sort of thing, because, she really wanted him, but she pushed him away, and then he kissed her, and then, she succumbed to his charms immediately.
Yeah.
Well, no, if someone's pushing you away and you force yourself upon them, that's assault.
It is now. It is now, yeah.
It is now. So it's interesting how, even when you're talking about Bond, how the environment that Bond exists in has changed so drastically.
It's funny, and I tell you what I find funny, because I watched You Only Live Twice last night.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you remember it very well, but after he's got married, he gets a little bit of stuck on plastic surgery to make him look like he's Japanese before he goes out, and he gets married, and he spends one night with Aki, who he met obviously in the beginning of the movie, and she fell for his charm straight away, and
she died straight away.
And the funny thing was, right, if that was me as that character, that would have been on my conscience through the rest of the movie, obviously for what your aim is because of what happened to her.
Yeah. But
the girl he gets married to, he's having a little you know what in the life raft at the end of the film, when surely that would have been on his mind about Aki getting shot and died.
Well, I thought it was just debriefing us.
Yeah, well, you know. But Bond's allowed to do that, isn't he? I mean, he was classed as very sexist.
But that, yeah, and that is the character, to be honest. I mean, to me, I think that, and I know this is going to sound quite a contradiction to what we've just said in a way, but I think Bond's always been really quite progressive, because he's seen as a misogynistic character, especially in the Sean Connery era.
I mean, it was, but I think what it boiled down to, the why he was like he was, but unfortunately it didn't happen in Connery's era, because when he got married and his wife got shot and he died, that changed his personality on how he was. But then again, he was like that through the first era, but that was the reasoning I always assumed was why he was like, because of what happened in his love life. And
sorry, go on.
That's it. Go on, carry on.
Well, cause what I was going to say is, I'm not thinking necessarily so much to women, but I think people in general. You know, I think Bond, on all of the movies, has respected wherever someone's come from. So, you know, it doesn't matter whether or not anyone's black, white, you know, straight, gay, whatever. You know, it's everybody's being treated as an equal. I think why, apart from the love interest, where, you know, there's this bit of more of a misogynistic kind of view, but when the action's on, you know, Bond's there with, they can hold their own as well. Or you could actually argue that that's just, he just doesn't really care about them. You know, but I don't think that. And, you know, when you look at, like, for example, Live and Let Die, where that's, you know, it's New Orleans, you know, it's heavily focused towards the black community in America.
Yeah.
There. And you know,
I'm just thinking, sorry, because it's when he gets in the cab, and he said, you know, only go uptown, and the guy, you know, obviously call it a jukebox and that, and he said, and the other guy you don't know at the time, which is actually Felix Leiter, saying it's like he's like a cue ball because he's white, you know, it just comes across.
Yeah, and it is quite funny and quite ironic, but I think what is really good about Bond is that, you know, even then, even in the 70s when that film was going, there was still a lot of, you know, discrimination based on people's skin colour, but Bond didn't discriminate. Even in the Connery era, Bond didn't discriminate.
No. In
that respect. And I think that that's a real positive in the way that they've always gone with the character.
Yeah, no, it's it's a bit ironic, really, and how, I mean, it's the way you look back at this, and you know, would have they made him like that at all then? For, you know, if this was like a new film series that they decided to bring out now, it would have never gone the way. It would have never probably stayed. It wouldn't have stayed the test of time.
No, I think, to be honest, the only reason why the Daniel Craig reboot, because it is a reboot, basically.
It is, and I'm going to say it now, and I'm always going to say this, it's an alternative universe that he's in.
I think, to be honest, every Bond's an alternative universe.
Because it's because they've rebooted the genre, say, they've rebooted the series, and it's like he's at the beginning of the chain. to be honest. Where the others, no, they take over. The other stories are in the background that's happened between different characters. You got where he's met certain villains once or twice, and you thought you died, like Blofeld or whoever,
Yeah.
So, but with the Blofeld in Craig, for example, is just wrong. That's why I say it's an alternative universe from that point of view. The way they've done it, it's not. It's never going to be the same as everything else.
No. I mean, Bond, to me, there is a formula to Bond, and that is a suave, debonair kind of guy who knows a lot about everything. He's super well known wherever he goes, which is a bit worrying for a secret agent, but we'll move on from that point. And lots of gadgets, lots of women, evil villains with, wanting to take over the world with super ridiculous layers that would have never, ever have been built in the first place.
That's why sometimes I like the idea of some of the other smaller stories, where they're not so heavily on someone that's trying to take on the world and trying to prove that someone else had done something else and they'd start a little world war going,
Yeah.
So the idea of having those, like Live and Let Die, because that's a drug story, for Christ's sake.
It is.
And it's about some dude getting his cocaine and dishing it around the whole of America.
Well, License to Kill is exactly the same movie, basically. It's a drug story.
Yeah. Except in that one, Felix Leiter bit the dust with a shark.
Oh, no, he survived. He just got his leg bitten
Did he?
off.
Sorry, I can't remember now. Did he survive?
Yeah, he survived.
Okay.
Because they left him dangling. Wasn't it his wife who died or something?
Could have been. I mean, that's one of the least movies I've watched. That one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Timothy Dalton, his era suffered from the invasion of political correctness into Bond. And it doesn't work with the character. And then they went back the other way with Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do agree with you in one way that I do like Pierce Brosnan. It's funny because when he originally was offered the role, he was too busy with the TV show.
Remington Steele.
Yeah. So
and then it went to Dalton.
Yeah. So we could have had him a bit longer without
Dalton.
Dalton.
But then we'd have had him in Living Daylights and License to Kill.
Yeah, but
and to be honest, Dalton, he's a Shakespearean actor, isn't he? And if he couldn't save that script, no one could. To be honest, because he's a good actor.
Well, you can't say that because we've seen this. We've seen the film. It's been made. Dalton's in it. I don't think you can try and sit another actor in that film and say, well, they would have done it differently, or it still would have been bad. You don't know.
Yeah, I feel I don't think it would have made a difference who you'd have put in there.
Yeah, no, I must admit I did. I bumped into two members of the production team that did all the Bond movies who got involved, and I did tell them my thoughts and how I thought, and I did praise for what they've done. Because I think it's IO Productions. I can't remember now. The company. Eon. And I bumped into because they actually chatted to me. They came up to me, funnily enough.
Yeah.
Because I was at Bewley, looking at the. I was there for the Bond in Motion display.
Oh yeah.
Which is like 50 Bond cars and gadgets on display at Bewley, and I was in the on the way out for today, looking at the all the stuff in the shop you'd have just drooled for, I tell you. But there was a really good book there by Eon Productions of the history of Bond. And they said, "Oh, do you like the book?" I said, "Yeah." And we just had a little chat, and I said, you guys keep it going. I just gave them some praise for it.
Yeah. Because
of it's been a part of my life. Probably it's near on. I mean, so it's Live and Let Die 1972. So I think that was the first one I'd seen. The memory serves for that, and yeah. It's near enough all my life,
To be honest, I think that the first one I saw, or the first one I remember seeing, was either I think it was You Only Live Twice, but it was obviously when it was on TV.
Yeah, Yeah, but in that case, what did you think when you saw Bond get shot at the beginning?
I was too young to really contemplate it. Do you know what I mean?
Because you would have thought, hold a minute, the main character's died already. This is going to be a rubbish movie.
I have to admit though, wasn't that just like really such a over the top, stupid, elaborate idea?
Well, it got him out of the way. That was the idea, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
Then he just goes around and said, "My name's Bond, James Bond."
Yeah, and he did enjoy the Peking duck that night, didn't he?
Yes, that's true.
So,
But, I mean, in terms of Daniel Craig, should we talk about this? Because I think this is really where we divide quite drastically, isn't it?
well, I don't mind him as playing Bond in this alternative universe. And he's, as you say, he is a Jason Bourne style character.
Yeah.
And I loved Casino Royale. Brilliant film. Absolutely loved it.
It was a bit ridiculous where he got shocked to restart his heart, and then he was perfectly all right, and then he went to play cards.
Well, that's Bond, though, isn't it? You know what he's like. He'll as he does, he'll just get his big dicky bow or whatever he's got penguin suit, just put it up right, move it so I'm fine. I'll carry on now. That's what he is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you don't like Craig at all, do you? Full stop. You don't really like him.
No. Now, what I'm going to say right now, up front, is Daniel Craig, I think, is a terrific actor.
Mm.
I loved him in Layer Cake and other stuff that he's been in.
Yeah, good movie.
Yeah. But I hate his version of Bond.
Mm.
In a matter of fact, I would say I think I prefer George Lazenby as Bond than him. Reason...
Go on.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on, carry on. I don't want to stop your flow.
The reason being is Daniel Craig's Bond isn't suave and sophisticated in the way that Bond has always been.
Yeah.
In a matter of fact, he looks like an orangutan in a tuxedo that's been shaved. And that's the way he acts. Mm. And that's why I don't like that version of Bond, because they've taken the Bond formula and they've gone, do you know what? It's worked for 19 movies. We don't care. And they've thrown it out of the window. They could have modernised it without losing so much of what made Bond Bond.
Well, do you think it went a bit... I mean, to be honest, if you go back a little bit, I think where it could have lost the plot was with Pierce Brosnan. Was it Pierce Brosnan with the Invisible...
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. The Vanish was a terrible thing.
Yeah. They lost the plot at that point, to be honest.
Yeah.
know.
But that's where I say you can have a good Bond, but you can not necessarily have a good story.
No.
And that whole story was pretty poor, but the other ones up until then had been okay.
Yeah. And I didn't like Spectre. As much as it was all right, I would say it's okay, but it wasn't. It didn't. Some places didn't feel right to me.
No, I'm going to say something. I know that some of the listeners will be thinking whatever, but for me, Spectre was the worst Bond movie ever created, and that has to go under the low bar of being worse than From Russia With Love, which I really used to hate, but I, with a passion, hate Spectre. And the reason being, again, it goes back down to this modern interpretation of Bond, but also something that we have in a lot of shows now, a lot of films, which makes everything very predictable. And that is, right, this is a spoiler warning. Flip forward if you haven't seen Spectre and you want to see it and you don't want to be spoilt. But that is where they turn round and they make Blofeld his adopted brother.
No, yeah.
That is the most stupid. Whoever thought that idea should be... They need to be sent to hell. It's terrible.
Whether or not Sam Mendes okayed it, I do not know, but, you know...
It's terrible. It really is the worst choice of a plot twist that they could have done. It would have been better to have had Pierce Brosnan walk out of the shower and go, wow, that was a funny dream.
Yeah. But
Do you know what I mean? It would have... It was terrible.
The idea of having Spectre, and it was good because, as I say, because it was a reboot of the series, I thought this could be interesting because we're bringing back Spectre that we, were involved at the beginning.
Exactly, that was it. Spectre was part of Bond.
Yeah.
The same as Moneypenny was.
Mm.
But no. It just doesn't work on so many levels, and it shows such disrespect to every other Bond film that has gone before. In a matter of fact, I think that the only directing choice that has been worse as some of the choices that have been made in the latest Star Wars film, to be quite honest with you. But you haven't seen that, so I'm not going to talk about that.
No. We're not going to go down that route, and we're probably going to... Yeah, forget that. Yeah, but it's unfortunate, but the franchise is still strong.
It is.
There's another film coming.
Well, evidently Daniel Craig signed up for 2 more.
Yeah.
So I'd read.
But I think everyone hopes that the script's going to be better than the last one.
Well, it couldn't go any worse.
What about, as this is a reboot, what if they actually remade one of the other Bond movies? Would that be would that be acceptable or not?
No, I don't think it would.
Because these days Hollywood does it all the time now.
Oh yeah, well it's lazy filmmaking, isn't it? Because why invent something new when you can just copy something old?
Yeah.
Half of your work's done there. You just turn a couple of things, make one character female, make one character male, change the colour of another character, change the sexual orientation of another character, bang, you've got a brand new TV series or a brand new movie that's about the same thing. That's the way that Hollywood works now, because obviously making movies costs millions and millions of pounds.
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions of pounds in some movies, and that extra time and development of something brand new that they're not going to have that inbuilt audience for. It's like the supposed Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy. I think everybody would have been wanting to have flocked to that before they actually saw The Last Jedi. Now I think half of the audience will, because it's a divisive movie. But do you know what I mean? Because you already know what kind of what you're getting. Whereas if you invent something new, how many new film franchises have come up? Pacific Rim, that's started to turn into a bit of a franchise, isn't it?
Well, I think we could go off topic and say there's too many DC comic movies, Marvel. There's too many. This is the thing. I mean, it's gone stale with what we're getting sometimes, and
yeah, I agree. But they're investing millions and millions of dollars. They can't afford for movies to not go, which I think is why we get these rebooted movies and TV. And they've really changed Bond. But I don't think it's for the better in comparison to the last. And you don't do the dirty on your source material, which I feel that these ones have.
So moving forward then, we never really mentioned, what's your favourite gadget?
Oh, my favourite gadget is Little Nelly.
Yeah, which I saw last night.
Yeah, so those of you who don't know what Little Nelly is, Little Nelly was the helicopter...
Gyrocopter, isn't it? Is it
gyrocopter that Q, or Major Boothroyd, as he's otherwise known as, brought to Bond on You Only Live Twice, and then he flew and found the volcano.
I would call that a vehicle more than a gadget, to be honest, because I do like that. But Scaramanga's gun.
Yes, but that's not a Bond gadget. That's
where's the gadget in the film, isn't it? Because it's still a gadget.
It is, yeah. I mean, I quite liked the wrist dart thing on Moonraker.
Yeah.
That was quite cool.
That and yeah, something similar in You Only Live Twice, where he had the cigarette with the dart in it.
Yeah.
While I'm watching TV, can I have a smoke? Can I have a smoke, please?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
There is, But no, I don't think they will ever go out of circulation, these movies. I think they're here to stay in the forms they've been in, and I think generations to come, I know it will fit every person has their favourite Bond because of what age they were.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's like Doctor Who, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
So, anyway, going on to the similar sort of questions, Mark sent me in a question, and he asked, who are our favourite Bond villains and Bond girls?
Well, I'm going to put the villain with my Bond movie, actually,
Yeah,
which is Goldfinger.
yeah, odd job.
And I think that pairing was smart, and it was realistic. It was a heist. They were breaking into the gold depository in the United States of America.
But not to steal the gold, to
No.
irradiate it.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? It was like a heist job for them.
Yeah,
You know, all meeting around the table of, you know, it was like Doc Brown in Back to the Future with his little set. Do you know what I mean of what they were going to do?
yeah.
But it's just a brilliant film. I really love that one.
Hmm.
I don't have to watch it again and again because I know it line by line, scene by scene in my head.
Yeah.
You know.
So odd. Well, that's a henchman, isn't it, rather than a villain?
Yeah. Well, the villain was Goldfinger. The henchman was
Yeah,
Oddjob.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So, and your favourite Bond girl?
Jane Seymour.
Yeah, well, she was voted the most beautiful woman in the world at one point, wasn't she?
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, best Bond villain.
You're going
It's
to
gotta
say
be-
you're going to say Jaws, aren't you?
No, because he's a henchman.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Henchman. Yeah. All right. I get what you get.
Yeah, I'm going to say my favourite villain has got to be Blofeld, the Donald Pleasance one.
And you only live twice.
Yeah. So he's my favourite villain, closely followed probably by Drax or Scaramanga.
No, I would put Scaramanga there. Drax, nah, he's a bit weak.
I don't know, he built the space program, didn't he, on it? But
Never,
yeah,
you know, he was a hit. He actually was a hitman, wasn't he?
yeah, Scaramanga was the opposite of Bond,
Yeah.
basically. But yeah, I did love Christopher Lee as Scaramanga. So henchman, I've got to say Jaws, because he has the most ridiculous, unique selling point as a villain. He bites people. I think if he'd have been Jaws in the 80s, he would have died of AIDS before the 90s, to be honest with that sort of approach. But yeah, that was, I grew up with Jaws, and it's like, I mean, I just loved
that
him
was
as a character.
Well, I mean, that was for you. You know, you only live twice. As
Oh yeah, it's my quintessential Bond movie.
yeah. And again, it's an age thing as well, isn't it?
It is, I suppose it is, yeah. But so Bond girl, who did you say?
I said Jane Seymour.
Jane, that was it, yeah. Well, Bond girls is really a tough one to actually say, isn't it? I would say, because I've always liked her since The New Adventures of Superman,
Oh, okay, I'm with you.
I'm going to say Terry Hatcher as Paris Carver
Yeah, but that's
in
nice.
Tomorrow Never Dies.
That was a good shot the director had of her, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. But also Christmas Jones with Denise Richards.
Yeah.
And from my favourite movie, Major Anya Amazov, or
Yeah.
Agent Triple X, played by Barbara Bach.
Yeah.
So they are my favourite characters or female characters in Bond. But, it's like Terry Hatcher's always been my favourite. But Denise Richards and Barbara Bach, they're both, good-looking women as well. So, Steve, favourite Bond car?
I'm going to go for the original.
The DB5.
Absolutely. And it's funny because when, in the last but one Bond film,
Yeah.
and no, was it Inspector? It wasn't Inspector, it was one before, wasn't it? Yeah. Skyfall. Excuse me.
Yeah, that came back. And
Yeah. And that just sort of put a real shudder on my back, and all the hairs went up the back of my neck.
Actually, wasn't that in Casino Royale as well?
No, it was a different, I don't think it was.
Yeah, it was a DB5 that was in that
Oh yeah,
as well.
but it wasn't.
Because he won it, didn't he?
Yeah.
In the casino.
But it wasn't the original one from the Connery era.
All right, yeah.
That was actually the Connery era. Because as he's driving and like your wife is moaning in the seat beside you, he flicked the gear stick with the red button to eject a seat. If you remember.
Yeah.
So that was class for me.
Yeah, that was good.
How about yourself?
I would say the DB9.
Okay.
That was in, it's been in a lot of Bond movies, hasn't it, really? Because they haven't really much done with the design. So, Skyfall, Quantum. No, it wasn't Skyfall, was it? It's DB10 was in, Spectre. So it's a DB9 that was in Skyfall. It was also in Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace.
Yeah, yeah.
And also the last Brosnan movie as well.
I can't remember now. Yeah,
because it was The Vanish.
I have
such a low point in Bond, was that?
I tell you, it's a shame. I don't if they ever do bring that tour back. The Bond in Motion.
Yeah.
What I'll do while I'm off, I would tell you what I'll do. I'll dig out. You won't believe how many photographs from that show.
Yeah.
Of all the different cars. There's Goldfinger's Rolls Royce. There's the boat from Live and Let Die, which they broke the world record on that jump.
Mm.
Yeah. So, shall I talk about that quickly? About from the Untouchables. We did mention it, didn't we, earlier?
Yeah.
So, there's two links to the Untouchables. Now, the first one is obvious, which it's Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
Okay. Now, the second one's a little bit difficult, and it was only on me watching it last night that I noticed that the attorney looked very familiar. So I thought, I'm going to have a look on the Internet Movie Database, and I was right. He played Sheriff W. Pepper. J.W. Pepper.
J.W. Pepper from the Louisiana State Police.
And, so he was in The Untouchables.
Yeah.
Obviously, Man with the Golden Gun as well, because obviously he carried on that character.
Yeah, unfortunately, he passed away recently as well, didn't he?
Last year, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was interesting. That I thought, oh, okay.
Yeah. Which actually leads me on to another question for you is, what are your favourite comedy moments in Bond? Because obviously Bond's all about the quips and the jokes as well. Mm. So what were the ones that really stood out for you? What ones did you like? I can think of 4 that are, ones that amuse me.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously off the top of my head because...
well, they're the best ones because they're the ones that really stick in your mind.
True. I'm trying to think, actually... Was this, I think if I'm right, because obviously sometimes they do blend into each other.
Yeah.
In George Lazenby with Magic Secret Service, near the beginning of the movie, he's on the beach with this girl, if I remember rightly, and this guy's trying to sneak up on him. Mm-hmm. And he goes, and I'm not sure if it was a spear and a gun or something like that, maybe.
It's harpoon, wasn't it?
Was it a harpoon? And he says, I think he got the point or something like that, maybe.
Yeah. I'm sure it was a harpoon.
Yeah. Which is I think that one's been used many times through the years.
He really stuck it to him.
Yeah. Maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger could have written some of those. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You give me one of yours. Will I have I'm just gonna have a quick.
Right. One of my favourite ones is of the Moore era, and it was Maud Adams who played 2 Bond women.
She did.
Francisco Scaramanga's girlfriend, and she also played Octopussy in 2 different films.
That's right. The only girl I think probably to do that.
No, there was another one.
Sure.
Who did two movies as well, and she was the actress who was the main Bond girl in From Russia with Love, because she did briefly appear in Doctor No, evidently.
Okay.
But she wasn't like a main character.
No, so I don't think it doesn't count as the same way that Maud Adams does.
No, exactly. So Maud Adams was the main character in those stories. So, I think that's fair enough. But it was, what amused me is the particular scene is Bond invades her, hotel room. Mm. And, this is like a very sexist sort of thing as well. I have to admit, this goes back to the sexist Bond, and one of the few bits of Moore's Bonds that was sexist. But it was where Maud Adams is having a shower and he opens up the door, points a gun at her. And, they have a brief exchange of words, and then she turns around and says, "Aren't you going to pass me something to wear?" So he passes her a pair of high heels.
That's right, yeah.
So that was quite amusing. Another one, I mean, another classic one again, Moore, because Moore had the best jokes, didn't he? Moore and Jaws' confrontation in Atlantis, where there is Jaws the shark in the pool below, and they're on that platform, and Moore just so happens where, just conveniently where this shark is as well, that there is a great big magnet. Yeah? And where Moore, looks, and then Jaws jumps down, and Moore smiles. That cheeky smile that he always used to do. Yeah. And then he looks up so shocked as he lowers the magnet, and then the magnet connects to Jaws' mouth. That was just so funny.
Here's one. In Octopussy.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember VJ? He was actually a tennis player, if you remember rightly.
Yeah.
And he says, "I hear the island is exclusively for women. No men allowed." And Bond, I think it is sexual discrimination. I definitely have to pay this a visit. Oh dear, that was quite funny. Let me think. Oh,
I also like a line that Brosnan did.
Yeah.
At the end of The World Is Not Enough. It's just a quick one-liner when they're going, "Where is Bond?" Yeah. And then it shows you, them two, and obviously they're in bed. And he goes, "It's funny, I thought Christmas only came once a year."
Yeah, no, I remember that one. Yeah.
That's a classic line.
And what about the one in Moonraker? Is it Moonraker?
Oh, just take me around the world one more time.
Yeah, and the other one is from, would it be The Spy Who Loved Me? Which is the one where, oh no, it is that one. It is the Moonraker, because then Q comes up and says, "I think he's about to do a re-entry."
Yeah. That is Moonraker, yeah.
That's class.
Yeah, it's just the way how they managed to keep it PG, but with those risque sort, it's almost like Carry On sort of humour, isn't it? Really?
It is very sort of that sort of style.
Yeah.
But then there's some things that aren't quips, but they're obviously are in your head.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of when you say that. On the Brosnan movies, whenever Bond was in a vehicle and in a chase, there was always a moment where he'd adjust his tie. So, like in GoldenEye, he's in the tank and he adjusts his tie. And then on The World Is Not Enough, I think it is, he's on that speedboat on the Thames. It ducks underwater. As it's going underwater, he does his tie again.
That was when I was going to say, yeah, because I remember that chase sequence very well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There was some in Live and Let Die, but I can't think off the top of my head. What about Dames Are Forever? Do you remember when Sean Connery's playing either backgammon or craps or something, and there's a girl there, a very busty girl.
Plenty O'Toole.
Yeah. Says, "Hi, I'm Plenty." Bond says, "Of course you are." Of
course you are. Yeah, and that's the male chauvinistic sort of Bond that we, grew up with, wasn't it? But
it doesn't get old. I mean,
no, it doesn't get old for us because we're old. But I think the younger generations looking at it and go.
But it's like actually in Octopussy when he's meeting Kamal Khan for the first time.
Yeah.
In the casino, and he obviously puts the Fabergé egg there on the table to have a bet, and he uses his lucky dice and what have you.
Yeah. And
then when he's taking all the cash out, you got that guy, I can't think of the Indian guy that's probably been in a lot of British stuff over the years. He's putting the money in his coat, in his jacket, sorry. And he says to him, "Here you go. This is keeping curries for a few years." You can't say that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing as well is, because I remember watching an interview with Roger Moore. And, on The Man with the Golden Gun, there's the bit where there's that kid, when he's being chased on the boat, and that kid comes up and says, "For you, mister, $20.
Oh, he's going, well,
yeah.
I know what you're saying.
And then he gives out, "If you could get this boat going, I'll give you $20,000.
Yeah.
And then he just turns on the fuel, and then he just chucks the kid into the water.
Yeah.
And, and the kid's going, bloody tourists!
Yeah.
In that daft voice that he does.
Yeah.
On it. But, very forced sort of accent. But it was the humour, but Roger Moore hated that, evidently, he said in the interview, because...
he was the ambassador, wasn't he, for the...
for the
children.
United Nations for Children.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, looking back, that's kind of like something he regrets in Bond, which...
Now, I know Bond, I don't think, has Bond ever sworn? Has he ever sworn? Is he sweared any time? But...
No.
What comes to mind is when he's having dinner with Scaramanga, and he's chatting away, and he says, there's a word I can think of, and he said, you're full of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking, really?
Yeah, and I think that Roger Moore delivered that line perfectly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know what? I'm going to probably sit down and watch a Bond. Might have watch one later or something. Just and I'll probably think there'll be a load more, and they think, oh, of course,
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. But of course, I mean, obviously, who do you think is going to be the next Bond?
Well, after talking about change of creed and colour, and how they decide to go PC with characters, I think there was one real chance that maybe
Idris Elba
would take the role.
Yeah.
But I personally think I'm the person that you would probably say.
What, as a good chance or not?
Yeah, no, I would. I mean, if he's not busy with his Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
Because when I was watching, he did a TV show called The Manager or something, wasn't it, on the BBC?
Yeah. The person I'm coming to, by the way, is Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah. And he come across in that. Like, do you know what I thought? He could probably pull it off.
I think he could. I think he's actually a good actor. I mean, taking out how he comes across in the media. I'm not interested in that. All I'm interested in is how he acts. Is he a good actor? And I think he is a good actor. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is a much less likely sort of person to do Bond, though, don't you?
I'd like to see him have a go at it, as in, even if it was just I'd love to see the test screening for him.
Yeah, it would be good. And, he's got a fantastic voice, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But, well, so you agree with me then, Tom Hiddleston would be a good one.
Yeah, I do.
Because he's got the charm, he's got the swagger, he's got the accent, he's got the Bond look. And and as you said before, the performance in The Night Manager shows he can do that kind of role.
Yeah.
So there you go, Tom. You've got two of us who are rooting for you for the next Bond, so don't let us down. Before we go off this subject, 'cause, we're coming towards the end. It's just occurred to me, actually, one thing we haven't talked about is the impact that Bond has had on popular culture. And thinking about, like, the films that it's generated.
Excuse me.
For example, Austin Powers.
That was where I was going to say straight off the back of that.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the main ones, I feel.
And Kingsman.
Yeah. I mean, that I can see what you're saying with that. But, I think Austin Powers having, his lair.
Yeah.
Shall we say, and how he comes and describes his lair and what he wants for a lair, as if he's been watching, You Only Live Twice.
Yeah, exactly.
He wants his own island with, with a volcano and
with sharks with frickin' lasers.
Exactly. Yeah.
And number two is there says, well, it would be much better if we go into real estate. But Mike Myers in application of James Bond general theme was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He parodied it perfectly, I think. All right, Goldmember was a bit naff, but the other two were absolutely superb. I thought I really, really enjoyed those films, and I still watch them today. I just wish you'd, release them on better quality than DVD.
Well, it's like you think. I mean, I know we're off topic a little bit, but like when they did the introduction to one of the films that he did with playing that character where Tom Cruise was in the beginning.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was so good. That was funny.
That was just just brilliant. Really good.
Yeah, but where he brought in the humour, like, for example, where he was always walking around naked, but there was things strategically placed.
Yeah.
All of that sort of stuff as well. And I also, I loved the whole thing of, like Dr. Evil, where it turns around and says, so are you going to shoot him? No, I'm going to stick him in a room with an inept guard and assume it goes okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is exactly how Bond was left on more or less every movie. And it was a parody, but it was brilliant. Really brilliant. So, all right, last thing then on Bond.
We could be all night.
Best lair.
Best lair.
Evil lair. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
bad guys hideout.
Now, there's one I'd like to visit.
Yeah.
Which would be the Ice Hotel.
Yeah.
But then I like the idea of what I watched last night with You Only Live Twice with the volcano.
I've got to say, the volcano lair's got to be the best one, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean...
a volcano lair that launches spaceships.
Yeah, and brings them back.
Yeah.
You can't get any better than that. I mean, some of the lairs in some of the films, because they're not really lairs. I mean, for example, Octopussy's lair, that was just an island with women, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose Bond would like to be there. And even with Moore's last visit with Zorin, he didn't really have one, but he had the
airship.
The airship at the end, didn't he?
That was pretty naff. And to be honest, Zorin, I just hated him as a bad guy. He just didn't work for me.
No, but I do like the actor, so...
I do. I love the actor. I'm having a mental breakdown because I can't remember his name. But as for the character of Zorin, it was awful. It's doing my head in because I can't remember.
Yeah, I can hear your fingers working away there, going right.
Christopher Walken.
Thank you.
Christopher Walken. It was. I had to look it up because that would have drove me nuts for the rest of the show.
So what did you think of Atlantis?
Oh yeah, Atlantis was brilliant as well, wasn't it? And let's face it, anywhere where you've got sharks in a pool.
Yeah, well, because actually, remember in You Only Live Twice, he had piranhas, didn't he?
He did
in that lair.
Yeah,
which was, and then when the woman walked over the bridge, it collapsed and she went straight in there because she didn't kill Bond when he was in the plane on the way down. But,
yeah, and because Connery had a quip at that later on when the big German dude died in there, didn't he?
Yeah, but there's one the Lair for Live and Let Die, which did have a shark in it, didn't it? And
yeah,
when he used his watch, he turned it on to be magnetized to get the gun pellet for killing sharks, or for actually for giving the air and he obviously swallowed it. The guy swallowed it and blew up like a balloon, and just that would have been pretty disgusting for real if it was.
It would have been,
because those guts would have been everywhere.
Absolutely everywhere.
But brilliant.
Yeah, there were good times, and of course, Never Say Never Again, because that was a remake of Thunderball. Wasn't it?
Yeah, but it didn't work, did it?
It worked to a certain extent, but it just didn't have the je ne sais quoi.
But when you put a British comedy actor in a role there,
you mean Blackadder?
It was cringeworthy, to be honest. I thought, and his last one, I think, was I think You Only Live Twice. He came back for.
Yeah, it was. That was the one he came back for.
Because he left.
Never Say Never Again.
Diamonds Are Forever.
It was off canon, but it went to Connery, Lazenby, but back to Connery.
Yeah, that's it.
For that one, I've forgotten what one it is now. Diamonds Are Forever.
Diamonds Are Forever was the one he left on. Yeah. But that was a great one. Oh, I love that movie. See, that lair in that one was an oil refinery at sea, wasn't it?
Much like it was on Dr. No.
Yeah. Well, actually, that was on land, though, wasn't it? That was on land. But this one was an oil rig.
Dr. No one was an oil rig, wasn't it?
No, that wasn't. Well, I'm positive because I remember. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because that was the one where the
land
kept swapping that cassette and it had the Scottish music on.
Yeah, that was the bands for the signals for the satellites which had the diamonds in it, obviously, which was up
because of course we all know that supercomputers choose a C60.
Yeah.
For those of you who are too young to remember, that was a cassette that recorded 60 minutes of audio.
Yeah, and I like the idea of the way he popped him out by accident and swapped him over, and then he put it down the girl's down her bikini,
and then she
bottoms.
went and swapped it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. Anyway, I think we've done Bond, haven't we? Or we might revisit it a different way in the future.
Should we do a little bit of the community bit?
Yeah. We've got some ones where people have said what their favourite movie is, have we not?
Yeah. While I'm searching for that a minute, do you want to just reel off their favourite Bonds with a little poll?
Right, yeah. Let me just find it in the notes. Did we not mention this before?
No, we haven't.
Oh, okay. So, surprisingly enough, David Niven and George Lazenby got no votes. And if anybody's saying, David Niven, he's never played Bond, well, actually he has, because it was in Casino Royale, the original version.
Exactly.
Yeah. Timothy Dalton came 5th. Roger Moore came 4th. Pierce Brosnan came 3rd, which is surprising because he was at number 1 for most of the poll. But then he just got nipped at the post by Daniel Craig and Sean Connery as number 1.
Yay!
Yeah. Well, I just think you got your friends to actually start to swing it, didn't you? You created a lot. I was wondering why we had 20 new people coming in, because you created new ones so you could get it to see Sean Connery.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so do you want to give us the top movies that people have said?
Okay, so I'll read as many of these as I can, if they're all here. So Ben Solway said Goldfinger, which he said was the quintessential Bond. Ben Taylor said Man with the Golden Gun and loved Christopher Lee as a super baddie. Clive Peacock said GoldenEye. Michael Edwards said The World Is Not Enough. Christopher Todd said Live and Let Die. Tom Warren cheekily gave us 2 with GoldenEye or Moonraker. Brian Hamilton gave us GoldenEye. Ian Russo said The Living Daylights because it starts here in Gibraltar, so that's where he lives. John,
and of course, Ian has provided the jingles and the theme tune for our show.
Yes, which
so
thank him for that.
Ian.
John Scott McIver has gone License to Kill, was awesome. Ryan Gottswold has gone Skyfall. Dave Griffiths has gone Goldfinger, good man. Richard Andrew Foster's gone On a Magic Secret Service as his favourite, and he's got his Goldfinger. Andrew has Emsley's gone. Well, actually, he didn't. He said the one with all the voodoo stuff. So I had to give him a bit of a teaser, but he's on Live and Let Die. Nicky Wilson's gone for GoldenEye. Craig Cole's gone for Goldfinger. Justin Lee's gone for Goldfinger. John Bibby's gone for the Spy Who Loved Me. Christopher Toth has gone for The Spy Who Loved Me. William Leggett has gone Casino Royale with Daniel Craig. Alan Cochran's gone for GoldenEye. Marlon Brandon has said would all be angry, but I told you I've never seen one, so there's always one. Stephen Miles has gone You Only Live Twice, and that is it. So quite a varied view on their favourite movies. Yeah,
so it just goes to prove that everybody's got the favourite Bond and the favourite Bond movie, and these are just our opinions, and everybody's correct.
Exactly. Now, funnily enough, on the idea of Bonds, I'm in my swivel chair, as you know, because you can sometimes hear the squeaking, so I do apologise for that.
Yeah.
But I do have, because the wife just popped out, so I've got Yoda in my arms. He's not a white cat, but he's close and small. So I'm sitting here like Blofeld at the minute, stroking Yoda.
Brilliant.
So,
okay, so hope you've enjoyed this in-depth analysis of what we feel about Bond and why we love it. Obviously, this is going to be another part of the show. We're going to do lots of different things. We've got lots planned, so it's not just going to be about Bond and Star Trek and Star Wars. There's all sorts. So we'll move on to the last bit of the show, which is our listener questions.
You are about to witness history in the making.